Find a posture that both feels comfortable and allows you to be alert. And I often like to begin practice with reflecting on a few things that I'm grateful for. So take a moment. The Buddha encouraged this as a way to brighten the mind. And see if you can feel where gratitude inhabits the body. Or maybe you experience it as a field. Now, allow that awareness and invite that awareness to experience the field that we're creating together this evening. Whether you're here in Charlottesville or on the airwaves. Simply feel that shared relational field that we're creating together. And bringing now that soft attention into the body. Coming home to this miracle. Bringing attention to the top of the head. Noticing the aliveness there. On the scalp, beneath the scalp, and around the scalp. And allow that gentle attention to cascade, if you will, down the front of the face, the brow, inviting ease in the brow and the eyes, Throughout the face, all those facial muscles that offered so many expressions today. And the sides of the head, the temples, the ears, experiencing the aliveness there. On the surface and beneath the surface. Experiencing the lower jaw now. Inviting ease there. If it happens to be clenched, just releasing it slightly. And now the back of the head. Bringing that gentle attention now to the entire neck region, front, back, sides, interior, exterior. And allow that soft awareness to cascade across the shoulders and down the arms, experiencing both the aliveness and volume of space. Experiencing that aliveness from the inside out, the living bone, ligaments, muscles. Into the wrists and fingers, experiencing each finger individually. And now bringing that same gentle attention and care to the upper portion of the torso, the rib cage area. You might feel the gentle expansion that occurs on the inhale and the release on the exhale. A slight movement. Experiencing that entire region, front, back, sides. And internally also. Maybe feeling a little gratitude as the internal organs continue night and day to keep us. And extending that awareness now into the belly and small of the back and sides. Inviting a softening in the belly. A letting be. Noticing the rhythm, the belly expanding and relaxing. And allowing that awareness to move and settle into the hips, and the buttocks and the genitals. Inviting ease throughout that area. And cascading further into the legs, feeling both legs simultaneously, the aliveness and volume of space. And experiencing the ankles and feet and toes. More difficult to determine each individual toe. Now, just experiencing the entire living body simultaneously. This miracle of life. And if you're inclined, bring your attention to the breath, some portion of the breath. Might be where the air moves in and out of the nostrils, the tip of the nose. Could be that expansion and relaxing of the rib cage. Or you might choose the rising and falling of the belly. Or maybe you enjoy following the breath all the way in, and as it fills the lungs and belly, and then all the way out. Or maybe you can experience breathing through all the pores of the body. Full body breathing. utilizing the minimal amount of effort to connect with that breath wherever you've chosen. And if and when the mind moves into a story, that's okay. Eventually you wake back into presence and take a moment then to re-relax any tension that might have occurred by virtue of that story. Soften, and then taking your time and reconnect again with that portion of the breath, that precious, life-giving breath. Always gently, never with any recriminations. Gentle and then more gentle. Now, very subtly and gently move your attention from the breath to the awareness that knows the breath. Look directly at the nature of awareness. Does the awareness have a boundary? Is it in your head or your body? Does awareness have a boundary? Does awareness have an age? Is it the same awareness you remember as a child? Or is it different? Does awareness have a gender? Does it have an ethnicity? Look directly at the nature of awareness. Is awareness transparent, or is there a color? Any kind of shape? Everything arising into awareness, thoughts, sensations, sounds, emotions. And everything dissolving back in. Look directly at the nature of awareness. Is awareness perturbed by any activity, or does it accept all phenomena equally? Now, allow yourself or invite yourself to fall back into awareness, like sliding into a perfectly tempered bath. Ever present, ever cognizant awareness. Now, if possible, let go a little further. Let be. Invite that opening into pure being. Open. Loving. The person becomes the watcher. The watcher relaxes into awareness. Awareness opens and becomes pure being. Now, come back into this body. Feel the contact points, the touch of your feet on the floor, the touch of your body on the chair, the touch of your hands if they're touching, where your arms are resting, the touch of your clothing, the air on exposed skin. And once again, experiencing this relational field. This shared empty awareness, full, paradoxical, mysterious. Okay, I know when I've taught before, I explain a little bit, a few words on that meditation. The first part was kind of simply as settling in, kind of gathering attention to the heart and mind, maybe relaxing a little more than we have been before we sat down to practice together. So that was the body scan, the connection with the breath. There's nothing magic about the breath. You can use any particular object or no object at all to just settle in. The second portion was a little bit of inquiry, like, what is going on? What is this aliveness? What is this thing that knows, this awareness? Does it have boundaries? Does it have gender, age, ethnicity, any of those characteristics? So we spent some time in inquiry, kind of utilizing the mind and exploring this thing that we call awareness or consciousness. I use them interchangeably. So that's the second part. So there's the kind of coming home, relaxing, and then there's inquiry. And then the third part is more of like, is it possible in that particular moment? And it changes from day to day, moment to moment, how quiet we become. If all the challenging energies of survival or hindrances, as they're called in Buddhism, if they're relaxed, is it possible then to just allow, let go, let be enough where there's a thinning out of the sense of a separate self? And we kind of bathe and open to this awareness. And then the very last part of that kind of opening or allowing is just a kind of final, not final, but a more subtle opening into pure, boundaryless being. where there's no you, me, roof, floor. Everything is directly experienced, washed with love. So that's a moment of realization. That's a moment of kind of complete opening. And all the major religions and philosophies that are involved with a kind of spiritual exploration, that seems to be where the practices are intended to end up. But as an aside, it doesn't take years of practice, arduous kind of work to have that direct experience. So after the break, we'll talk about that a little bit, and we'll do a couple of experiments that I think you will find fun.
Oh,
It's worth remembering that you all are, or re-remembering that you all are explorers of consciousness in one form or another, or you wouldn't be here. And I often use the phrase contemplative artist. And you're not unlike the Buddha and all the great wisdom explorers, teachers, etc., throughout time, because somehow you've got that glowing ember of curiosity that's propelled you to get involved in some way or another with this exploration. And that's still a small percentage of humanity that somehow has that ember of curiosity to explore like this. And in teaching all these years, I kind of felt it's my responsibility to personally experiment and test drive, so to speak, and master, if possible, all kinds of different ways of exploring a particular topic under the umbrella of consciousness study. And certainly it's been a lot of fun over these years, and for my own benefit, I've enjoyed it. And that's combined with the hope that I will have enough different things to offer, a fuller menu, if you will, where anybody or a student can find something that kind of fits with their proclivities. Because it's really true that one size does not fit all in this kind of exploration. And when I reflect back on my own journey, I seem to have drifted from emphasizing one aspect of spiritual practice to another and kind of needing it all together as I go along. And I remember my really decades-long fascination and interest with and enthusiasm for samadhi and jhana practices. Trying out first for myself and then trying to share it with other people. And for those of you who don't know what samadhi or jhana practices are, they're really a series of practices, and there's a lot of different ones where you gather the heart and mind together to a high state of concentration, and then you utilize that high state of concentration as a tool to penetrate into what you might call the nature of nature, whether it's examining large, interesting spiritual questions like what's the nature of suffering, what's the nature of self, or whether it's personal issues. How am I going to solve this problem with my family? How am I going to solve this problem? Yeah, so there's so many aspects of exploration. And being enthusiastic about the Brahma Viharas, the kind of loving friendliness practices of compassion, equanimity, love, sympathetic joy, and all the benefits out of that. The benefits of exploring the depth of gratitude, the benefits of exploring the Eightfold Noble Path and those aspects there. You know, and so we go from, or it seems like a lot of people that have been at this for a while kind of emphasize one thing and then emphasize another, keep rolling it all together as you kind of move along. And I'm going to go off, it might seem like a little off track, but it'll kind of come around. I was watching a movie last week called The Life of Chuck. It's a very strange movie. But in one part of it, Carl Sagan's, not Carl Rogers, Carl Sagan's cosmic calendar entered the story. And some of you may remember that and I had heard it before, but it was awe-inspiring again when I heard it in this movie. It kind of has the capacity to blow out your perspective, and it did for me. And kind of, as Aldous Huxley would say, it kicked the doors of perception a little wider. So for those not familiar with it, I want to kind of lay it out. And in Carl Sagan's cosmic calendar, he looks at the entire 15 billion years from the point of the Big Bang, as scientists understand it, to this moment. And the metaphor he used, it's 1 year, 365 days. So at midnight on January 1st, Big Bang. Okay. I'll point out some of the aspects. And so the formation of the Milky Way, our Milky Way, you know, in the universe, there are so many galaxies, but our Milky Way galaxy happened in May. So January 1 explosion in May, the Milky Way that we see, and actually maybe not on a night like this, the moon's really bright, but happened in May. The formation of our solar system, the sun and the earth and the other, we started gathering together mid-September of that 15 billion year stretch. It's about a 1.25 billion years per month, so to speak, or something like that. Dinosaurs appeared on Christmas Day, December 25th. Okay? And they became extinct, sadly for them, on December 30th. That's what, 65 million years ago. Homo sapiens appeared the last few minutes of December 31st. Now, there were other hominids on the planet. We know that were a little earlier. But as far as we know, they're all gone now. And what we consider recorded human history, you know, the final seconds of December 31st. So when I think of a perspective like this, and maybe it is for you, it can kind of vault you out of a tight little me spiral that we often find ourselves in. It can become a portal that for some moments, you're not simply an embattled, separate, suffering self. You're connected to this amazing and mysterious lineage stretching forever, whatever that is. In exploring practice and various practices, I've found that anything that you encounter that's awe-inspiring, and you pay attention to it, really is a great potential for an opening. Notice it when you're feeling awe for anything, looking at the moon, whatever it might be, into nature. You feel that sense of wonder and expansion. And then there often is that kind of thinning out of that separation between me and everything else. So this cosmic calendar that Carl Sagan laid out, I find it both awesome and humbling. I mean, in the annals of the universe, we are so young as human beings. We're not even toddlers. And here we are spinning on this little blue, watery rock, third stone from something we happen to call the sun. You know, our entire human history is just a fleeting moment. You know, do you remember the Voyager spacecraft? I mean, they actually launched the first one in 1977. There's two of them. They're still going out there. And in 1990, when Voyager 1 was leaving our solar system, it took some pictures back. And what it showed, we were able to find the little tiny blue dot amongst all the other stars and etc. that was the Earth. It's called the blue dot kind of image. And Carl Sagan wrote this when he saw that image. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you ever love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. A mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. You know, touching into an awe-inspiring kind of perspective like that is one way to support your equanimity, you know, in the face of all the changes. And it can support a kind of calm clarity as you consider what your appropriate response would be to difficult times in your life, or issues challenging you, or issues challenging us as a species in general. Awe, kind of falling into awe, can be an important component in a spiritual practice. And we had an election today. And of course, in the relative world, it's important, you know. In the geologic time, it's just a little tiny blip of activity. So we do this dance back and forth, you know. And we're living in a time and place where many believe this country, currently called the United States of America, is in the midst of changing its form of government. Wouldn't be the first time that's happened in history, all over this place. So as our current world changes again, most of it out of our control, changes into something different, it really behooves us to find ways to approach these changes with as much creativity, energy, calm, and compassion as we can muster. So finding the right practices and perspectives that nurture your spiritual power, so to speak, that's the challenge. So as an attempt to bring forward various ways of directly experiencing the core essence of the great wisdom teachings of the world, I'd like to share with you some fun natural awareness experiments, so to speak. They're from a body of work that's known as the Headless Way. Maybe some of you have run into it. And they try to encapsulate natural awareness, that kind of non-dual perspective, in a very practical and easy manner. The originator of this form, although it's pulled from, you'll be able to tell it's pulled from all these wisdom teachings. A guy named Douglas Harding, who was born in Britain in 1909, very curious young man. He was trained as an architect, and he ended up the year was 1942 in northern India, working on some projects. At that point, if you remember, the British Empire was all over the world and included India. And it was in the middle of World War II. And so he, like everyone, was concerned with what is going to happen, and, is my life going to be shortened, and et cetera. So Douglas Harding had this moment, and I'm going to read it to you, what he wrote. And he wrote it post tense, but the best day of my life, my rebirth day, so to speak, was when I found out I had no head. This is not a literary gambit, a witticism designed to arouse interest at any cost. I mean it in all seriousness. I have no head. It was 18 years ago, when I was 33, that I made the discovery. Though it certainly came out of the blue, it did so in response to an urgent inquiry. I had for several months been absorbed in the question, what am I? The fact that I happened to be walking in the Himalayas at the time probably had little to do with it, though in that country, unusual states of mind are said to come more easily. However, that may be, a very still, clear day and a view from the ridge where I stood over misty blue valleys to the highest mountain ranges in the world, with Kangchenjunga and Everest unprominent among its snow peaks, made a setting worthy of the grandest vision. What actually happened was something absurdly simple and unspectacular. I stopped thinking. A peculiar quiet, an odd kind of alert limpness or numbness came over me. Reason and imagination and all mental chatter died down. For once, words really failed me. Past and future dropped away. I forgot who and what I was. My name, manhood, animalhood, all that could be called mine. It was as if I had been born that instant, brand new, mindless, innocent of all memories. There existed only the now, that present moment, and what was clearly given in it. To look was enough. And what I found was khaki trousers, terminating downwards in a pair of brown shoes, khaki sleeves terminating sideways in a pair of pink hands, and a khaki shirt front terminating upwards in absolutely nothing whatever, certainly not in a head. It took me no time at all to notice that this nothing, this hole where a head should have been, was no ordinary vacancy, no mere nothing. On the contrary, it was very much occupied. It was a vast emptiness, vastly filled, a nothing that found room for everything, room for grass, trees, shadows, distant hills, and far above them, snow peaks like a row of angular clouds riding in the blue sky. I had lost a head and gained a world. It was all quite literally breathtaking. I seemed to stop breathing altogether, absorbed in the given. Here it was, the superb scene, brightly shining in the clear air, alone and unsupported, mysteriously suspended in the void. And this was the real miracle, the wonder and delight, utterly free of me, unsustained by any observer. Its total presence was my total absence, body and soul, lighter than air, clearer than glass, altogether released from myself. I was nowhere around. Yet in spite of the magical and uncanny quality of this vision, it was no dream, no esoteric revelation, quite the reverse. It felt like a sudden waking from the sleep of ordinary life, an end to dreaming. It was self-luminous reality for once swept clean of all obscuring mind. It was the revelation at long last of the perfectly obvious. It was a lucid moment in a confused life history. It was a ceasing to ignore something which, since my childhood at any rate, I had always been too busy or too clever to see. It was naked, uncritical attention to what had all along been staring me in the face, my utter facelessness. In short, it was all perfectly simple and plain and straightforward, beyond argument, thought, and words. There arose no questions, no reference beyond the experience itself, but only peace and a quiet joy and the sensation of having dropped an intolerable burden. So this guy, Douglas Harding, went on to write a number of books, and C.S. Lewis, he was so enraptured with him, he wrote a preface for one of his books. And some of the other books were actually published by the Buddhist Publication Society, I think out of Sri Lanka. So there's a lot of interpenetration here. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to invite you to participate in a couple of these experiments. And I want you to kind of lean into your sense of humor and childhood curiosity, which is still there, although sometimes it might be hard to find. Okay? And I'm going to use the direct language of Douglas Harding is dead now, but Richard Lang, who kind of runs the show there, these are his words. And these are very simple experiments. There's a little short preamble. It's called the pointing experience or experiment. We begin by directing our attention outwards, observing that everything we see has shape and color. Everything is a thing. Then gradually, we direct our attention closer to ourselves until finally we are looking at the place we are looking out of to see if we also have shape and color. Okay, so I want you to point at something, and point at something in front of you and notice its color and shape. It's a thing. Bring your finger down a little and point at something else and notice its color and shape. It's a thing as well. Now point down on the floor. I can see shades and patterns there in the carpet. Now point at your foot and notice its color and shape. It's a thing as well. Bring your finger up your body and point at your knee. You can see the color and shape of the knee. It's another thing. Bring your finger further up and point at your torso. Observe the colors and shapes there. It's a thing as well. Now bring your finger out in front of you and point back at the place where others see your face. The place you are looking out of. What do you see here? Do you see your face? Do you see your eyes, your cheeks, your mouth? Do you see any colors or shapes here? Do you see anything here at all? I'm not asking you what you believe is here. I'm asking you to put aside belief and take a fresh look rather than what you think is here. What do you see here? Or not see here, in fact. Here's my experience. He goes on. Looking in, I don't see my face. I see no eyes here, no cheeks, no mouth, nothing at all. Or to put it another way, looking in, I see emptiness. This emptiness is boundless, but still awake. I am now seeing what I am at center, what I am from my own point of view, what I am privately. I'm now going to guide you through an extension of the pointing experiment. This involves pointing in and out at the same time. I know it's a little silly. Two-way pointing. This indicates that the space at center isn't just empty, it's also full. Looking in, I see the emptiness here at my center, but I cannot see this emptiness without at the same time seeing what's filling it, my view out. This emptiness is now filled with my hands, the room beyond, and with various sensations, sounds, thoughts, and so on. I find no boundary between the space here and the world there. My faceless consciousness merges with and becomes the world. Privately, I am the world. And he goes on to say, of course, we remain aware of our public identities, of what we look like to others and to ourselves in the mirror. I'm aware that for you, and this is him speaking, I am Richard and I identify with Richard. I identify with my face, my body, my name, my age, my thoughts and feelings, and so on. In other words, I am aware of living a two-sided life. I have both a public and private self. You can see my public self, but my private self is hidden from others. It's an inner secret. However, I believe that if you look there where you are, you will see your private self, and you will see that your private self is no different from mine. It has no face, no name, no age. It is capacity. If you are now seeing this faceless capacity where you are, then you are now sharing a wonderful secret. The secret of who we all really are. Of course, your view out from this capacity is different from mine, but the capacity itself, this boundless consciousness, is the same. Seeing that privately, your space for the world is different view of yourself from the normal view, the view of yourself from outside, the view of yourself as a person. Because not many people are yet aware of their private identity, then, in a sense, it is a new thing. Of course, it's not new at all. We've always been this aware emptiness throughout history. Many people have spoken about it. But if you haven't been aware of it, and then you come across it, it's normal to question whether or not this view is valid and true. For example, I can't see my face here, but I can see it in a mirror. Doesn't that mean that I have a face and that I am not capacity at center? I'm a person? There are also other questions that come up, alongside questions about whether or not this view is valid and true. And our questions, there are questions about its usefulness. If I remain aware of my private identity, what difference will that make in life in society? All right, so we got out there a little bit here. I mean, maybe some of you saw some possibility in that experiment. Some of you probably thought, oh, old Pat has finally gone around the bend. He's probably not coming back. But when I play in this particular sandbox, it always makes me smile, and that can't be bad. So if this tickled you in some way, check out the Headless Way on the internet. They have these there's 6-minute experiments, and there's a bunch of them, and they're kind of interesting. So as you go through your practice, or scanning the wisdom teachings, which everything is available to you. Everything's available since us Homo sapiens started recording things. We learned to write things down, and a lot of stuff came orally, and then we wrote it down. But if you don't give up, you will find practices that will absolutely, completely, radically change your life. And many of you who I know can attest to that. And this Headless Way that we played with tonight is just one portal of a myriad of possible portals, that can support a very deep opening into the direct experience of intimacy with everything.